morning, good evening. Well, it's almost morning. It's the end of my first day on the road. I left home at 3 o'clock. Got to Shreveport at 10 o'clock. Made a few stops along the way. Ran into some bad weather. And almost ended up in some swamp due to some crazy drivers on the road. But I made it this far, so I'm thankful for that. I'm actually not really feeling all that well right now. I try not to put my faith in people because, truth is, I really don't feel like I have a whole lot of true friends. I can probably count the people that I can really count on in a pinch on one hand. But I can count all the people that say that I can count on them. Those numbers are infinite, but when I actually call on them, they never truly come through, or they leave me hanging. I am making this trip because I needed to take one last opportunity and see if I still have one last hurrah in me before, I finally just settle down to a rather mundane or pedestrian life. I've traveled a lot in the last 20, 30 years of my life, and I've seen a lot of different places. I've lived a lot of different places and everything, and I've experienced a lot of things. I try my best to be there for people when they need help and everything, or when they need me, and I don't ask anybody for anything. God knows I don't. But when I do ask for help or something like that, it's because I really need it, not because I'm just asking just because. And I noticed that people will talk a good game, or they'll say that, hey, I got your back and everything like that, but it's never the case. I wrote a post the other day, and I had a couple of people call me and tell me that, I was wrong for saying what I said and everything, but, I said how I felt. People should stop using God as a shield when they just don't want to help you. If they say that if you can't help somebody, or if you don't want to help somebody, just say you don't want to help. Just say, hey, look, I can't help you with this, or I can't do nothing for you. Don't sit there and say, oh, talk to God or pray on it or anything like that, because to me, that's a slap in the face of that person, because you're basically, to that person, and I know a lot of people that are they just take it in stride and everything like that, and they're humble about it and stuff like that. But I know a lot of people that that hurts them, because they feel like, okay, where are my friends when I really need them? Where are the people that claim that they have my back when I really need them and everything? when you have a problem, you go to God and everything like that. What makes you think that that person didn't already go to God? I mean, how do you know that God didn't say, okay, you know what? I hear your prayer. Now I'm gonna send you to one of my disciples or one of my servants, and I'm gonna see if that servant is going to help you in my name, or they're gonna sit there and deny one of my children, one of my children. And I've never been one. I've never been a religious. I grew up in a religious household. My grandfather was a minister of his own church for years. I grew up in a church family. So, you know, I know the Bible. I've read the Bible. I know the Bible. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a Bible expert, but I try to live the Bible. I try to live the way I feel God wants me to live, and not necessarily the way, people think that I should live and everything like that. But it's just, it amazes me that, I've seen people ask their friends, be on Facebook and social media, and it's like they pleading for any help, any assistance, anything whatsoever. Some people just want somebody to listen, or just hear them out, or even just to show that they care a little bit. And it's just like, we've become a world where, we're so self-absorbed to where we don't care nothing about anybody but ourselves. And it's sad. It is truly sad. I'm up here in Shreveport right now. I'm on my way to Dallas and stuff, and I put myself in this situation. I don't blame anybody else but me for trusting in somebody, trusting people and stuff like that. And it's something that I normally would never do, but I did it. So I have nobody to blame for what happens from here on out but myself. So but it teaches you a harsh lesson that, sometimes, people will fail you. People will, you can't trust human beings. I don't know. I'm trying not to sound down on this video, because hell, I've struck out and traveled and went places many times before, but I do realize that I'm not as young as I used to be when I was doing all my traveling once upon a time. And I'm still resourceful. I'm always gonna make sure that I'm taken care of and I can take care of myself. That's first and foremost. So I'm a survivor. Hell, I've survived I survived Hurricane Katrina, sitting in the Superdome for just about 12 to 15 days. Trust me. And I survived the bus trip to Texas. Ended up in Ennis, Texas, the whole 9 yards. I don't think I've ever told anybody or even told what happened during that experience. But basically, in a nutshell, I remember the day and everything like that. This day after the storm hit, everything was down. Power lines were down, power was off, no transportation and everything. And I remember I was going to Children's Hospital to go, and I had left my house out in the east, and I was going to Children's Hospital near by Audubon Park. And I went up Chapatulas, past the Walmart. And of course, when I first passed the Walmart was actually, boarded up and sealed up and everything like that. I walked past, I literally walked from New Orleans East all the way to Children's Hospital in Audubon Park. And those of you that are from New Orleans, Kenner area, y'all know that's a good little hike. I was in damn good shape during that time. I walked past the Walmart. Wasn't nobody out there. I mean, it was a ghost town. I mean, people were, it was a lot of flooding, a lot of water, you name it, it was there. And when I got to Children's Hospital, because I went there looking for my stepmom. Her name was Estelle. She's been the best mom I could possibly ask for. I mean, she's always given me good advice and great wisdom and stuff like that. But when I got to Children's Hospital, they told me that they had already evacuated them on the bus and everything, and they had taken them away. So I ended up walking back towards downtown, and I figured best way to go is to backtrack the way I went and walk back up Chapatulas. Well, when I got back up Chapatulas to the Walmart, that's when all of the people by then, they had already broken into the Walmart and looted it clean. And when I say that Walmart looked clean, it looked like they were just getting ready to stock the store. I mean, everything was empty. You had bread racks outside full of shoes and clothes and stuff like that. I mean, it was pretty intense. I mean, I saw people walking by with I saw a guy walking by with fishing poles. I saw a guy walking by with a TV, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, why are these people walking out of Walmart with a TV when there's no power? But again, that was the mentality that a lot of these people had. They were like, okay, you know what? I might not get a chance to get all the stuff that I've ever wanted, so I'm going to take it anyway, which was kind of stupid. Well, when I got to the front doors of Walmart and everything, there was a police officer standing out there. Police officer was standing out front of the door with an AK-47 and a shotgun and in full tactical gear. And he basically told me in a nutshell that they were letting people go into the Walmart to get water, food, and medical supplies only. He said they had just gotten there, and by the time that they had gotten there, all of all of the store stuff was gone. People had looted the store completely, and all that was left was just. And when I walked in, at first I wasn't gonna walk in. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I was not gonna walk in. I mean, first of all, a cop with a AK-47 and a shotgun, you not about to shoot me and say that I was looting. So that was not in the plan for me. But me and him sat there and we talked, and I ended up making a good friend. I mean, he's been my friend now for the last 12 years since the storm, and I respect him because he didn't have to stay. Most of the police officers, most of the law enforcement, let me say this, for Katrina, it was a nightmare incarnate. I mean, nobody was prepared. There are people that say that the people of New Orleans had ample warning to leave. That's bullshit. We were told that the storm was going to hit the day before the storm actually hit. That's when they decided to start telling people to start evacuating. By then, you had shut down all of the bus systems and everything like that. So I managed to go into Walmart. I grabbed some flashlights and some batteries and some bottles of water and a duffel bag, and threw a couple of first aid kits in there, and I started walking. I mean, I managed to find a radio in Walmart and some batteries so that I could at least, find out what was going on. Well, I ended up making it over to the train station. And now the radio basically said that the National Guard was evacuating people from the bus station, the train station. Well, when I got over there was a group of people over there, several pregnant women, several elderly people, and they were all just standing there, leaning up against the wall and everything. So me being me, I shared what little supplies I had. I mean, ain't no sense of being greedy and being a hoarder and only thinking about yourself when you see people that are suffering. So I shared everything that I had. I mean, it wiped out all of the little supplies that I did have managed to come across. But hey, you know what? I helped a bunch of people in the process. Because one of the old men told me, he said, "Man, we ain't have nothing. We ain't have no water. We ain't have no food. Nothing." So I gave everything I had. We stood there, the National Guard was there and everything, and then all of a sudden, when it started getting dark, the National Guard left us. I mean, they literally just packed up and got in their trucks and took off and left us in front of the bus station. And we're just standing there, we're all standing there looking like, okay, isn't this where they're supposed to be evacuating us from? And so we ended up finding out that they were evacuating people to the Superdome. They opened up the Superdome, they opened up the convention center. Let me tell you this, the Superdome, between the Superdome and the convention center, the Superdome was the safest place. And I'm not going to say it was 100% safe, but it was safer than the convention center. The convention center was like the Wild Wild West. I mean, it was anarchy in there. Basically, the strong survived. The weak basically suffered. If you were weak, if you couldn't fight or you couldn't defend yourself, you were in trouble, and you did not want to go to the convention center. And the group of people that I was with at the bus station, basically, we stood there for as long as we could, and then I was like, we got to get to the Superdome. Well, the only problem was, if you're from New Orleans, the bus station ain't nothing but a short little walk, couple of blocks to the Superdome. Well, all of that area was flooded. I mean, and when I say the water was up to my waist, and I'm 6'3", the water was literally up to my waist. And so, I tried to get a couple of the guys to come with me. Ended up only getting one guy that was brave enough to try to wade through the water to come with me. I mean, I admit there were snakes and other things in the water, but my whole thing was I was trying to, be a leader and step up for these people. I mean, we had pregnant women. We had like 5 pregnant women that were, full-blown pregnant, as well as a bunch of elderly people. They wasn't gonna survive, and the women had been on their feet practically all day or sitting on the concrete ground and stuff like that. They needed medical attention. So what I do, again, I did what was necessary. I started walking, me and the little guy and everything, and we started walking, and it got to the point where the water had gotten so high and everything like that. I told him, I said, go back and let them know that I'm a keep trying and everything, because he had went under the water and stuff he had slipped and went under the water and hurt his ankle in the process. So I told him, I said, look, make it back to them. I'm gonna keep going. So I kept going. I finally made it to the Superdome. When I made it to the Superdome, I got met by, a long-ass line of people that were trying to get into the Superdome to what they called safety. And when I got to the Superdome, it was amazing. The National Guardsmen had orders that once you were in the Superdome, you were not allowed to leave. And I remember I'm telling the National Guardsmen, hey, look, there's a bunch of people that are waiting at the bus station to try to find out if help is going to come. I need somebody to come with me so we can bring these people back. It's a lot of pregnant women. It's a lot of elderly people. So we need something. We need a boat or a truck or something, and the sergeant that was standing there, he basically told me, he basically was oblivious to it. I mean, he, in so many words, he was like, okay, you know what, just get in line. And I refused to get in line. And I remember hearing one of the, I remember hearing a cock from one of the guns. And I remember one of the National Guardsmen leveling his gun towards me. And I just told him, I said, look, if you're going to shoot me, shoot me. I'm at this point, I made a promise to those people that I'm going to go back and let them know that, help is coming or help is not coming. And I'm sitting there arguing with the National Guardsmen and stuff like that. And lo and behold, a truck, one of the big, huge army dump trucks comes up, and they start offloading people off the truck. Tell you how God works in mysterious ways and everything. Apparently, there was a lieutenant that heard me tell them where the people were and directed a truck to go pick these people up. And so all of the people that were at the bus station, they come running up and everything. The ladies were saying thank you and stuff like that. They didn't know, they were glad that I sent help back and everything. I mean, was I willing to really walk away and face the consequences that they were going? Absolutely. And I wasn't doing it because I wanted recognition And I'm not saying it now because I wanted recognition. I was doing it because it was the right thing to do. I mean, you never, when in times of crisis, that's the time we need to come together as human beings, and we need to come together as human beings and say, okay, you know what, let's do this, and let's do this right. So, all of my people got into the Superdome and everything. When we got in the Superdome, we thought it was going to be a whole lot better, and they said that they were evacuating people as quickly as possible, so we shouldn't be in the Superdome long. That was a lie. It took them 12 days. I was in the Superdome almost 12 to 13 days waiting to be evacuated. During that time, I watched the most horrific scenes. I watched our people, white, black, Hispanic, you name it. I watched human beings revert to acts that would turn your stomach if you saw them. I mean, they had reporters that would come to the Superdome, and, they would see the people singing and, trying to keep their spirits up and everything. But like I told one of the reporters, I said, when you leave at 5 o'clock, when you leave at 11 o'clock at night, and you go back to whatever hotel or staging area they have y'all at, we're left to the National Guard. What they were doing was, instead of, constantly patrolling the entire Superdome and deploying troops to make sure that law and order was maintained and everything, what they did was they retreated at 11 o'clock at night, and they retreated back to the arena, which is right next to the Superdome. And when they retreated to the arena, they sat there and basically, in a nutshell, they barricaded themselves to protect them from us. And from 11 o'clock till 6 a.m. in the morning, the Superdome was just like the convention center. I mean, only the strong survived. Everybody else, I mean, it was a nightmare. And if I describe some of the things that happened, I mean, there were rapes. Women had to go in the bathroom. Women, if they could find a usable bathroom, not a workable bathroom, because let me make you understand, there was no running water, there was no power in the Superdome, there was nothing. I mean, how they fed us meals ready to eat, which is a MRE for those of you that have military backgrounds. And a meal ready to eat, trust me, some of those MREs are not real edible when it comes down to meals. So trust me, they gave you 3 meal packets a day and 6 bottles of water. One bottle of water was for you to use in your heating unit for your MRE. The other bottle was for you to drink, or in some people's cases, they used it to bathe with, or wash off with, or do whatever it needs to. You didn't get cold water. There was no ice. Now, some people did find some of the ice machines in the Superdome and some of the soda machines, and they managed to break into those machines and get the soda and what little ice that they had. And of course, you know, you had those unscrupulous people that decided to try to make a profit off of other people's misery. We had a guy that came to the group where I was, came to the area where I was, and he tried to sell a mother with her kids, tried to sell her cold orange juice that he had a garbage can full of ice and cold orange juice. And he tried to sell her that and told her, you know, if she didn't have any money, she could work it off in other ways and everything. And I remember laying there, and I jumped up and I told him, I said, just leave. Just leave and leave the garbage can. Yes, I took the garbage can from him. And yes, I distributed the ice and the juice and stuff like that. You know, like I say, it was a nightmare in there. Anybody that tells you that the time in the Superdome was peaceful, quiet, and orderly, they lying. They are part of the people that were trying to cover up a lot of stuff. There were people that were dying in the Superdome due to not having medical attention or medical supplies. I mean, there was one lady I remember, you know, she was a part of our group for a little while, and, you know, she told me, she said, you know, I just made my 64th birthday and everything. She said, and I don't want to die in here. And sadly to say, she didn't make it out of the Superdome. She didn't evacuate with us. I mean, she died. And I think it was mainly due to the fact that she was a diabetic and she didn't get she didn't get the medication she required. I mean, it was unorganized, you know. And now, you know, of course, the city officials, let them say it, let them tell it. They say that, you know, the blame went on the people because the people should have evacuated on their own. They should have heeded the warnings. Let me tell you something. First of all, if you know anything about New Orleans as a whole, as a city, probably a good 60 to 80% of the people in New Orleans ride public transportation, or they walk, or they ride a bike. They don't have vehicular transportation. So how do you expect those people to evacuate? And then on top of that, our esteemed mayor at the time, Mayor Ray Nagin, instead of him making the buses available, he put the buses in Slidell. The bridge washed out, so they had to pretty much try to get the buses back the long way around, which they weren't even trying to do. It took them 12 days before I left the Superdome. And I was on a bus. I remember getting on a school bus. And when we got on the school bus, there were so many kids there with no parents whatsoever. And we were just told, hey, you know, keep an eye on these kids. You know, we're going to reunite them with the parents at the shelters and everything. Well, how were you going to do that when you were scattering people all over creation? I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was just outright horrible. I remember when we left the Superdome, we got on a bus. When we got on that school bus, they brought us to LaPlace. They brought us right there to I-55 in LaPlace, the very first LaPlace exit when you leave Kenner. We got there. We got on a Greyhound charter bus. From there, it was like 2 school buses that got on that Greyhound charter bus. And when we left, they told us that we were going to Houston. When we got on the bus, when we got to Lafayette, the bus drivers received new instructions to take us to go to North Texas because Houston said that they didn't want any more evacuees. When we got to North Texas, when we got to Dallas, I remember everything. I remember every stop on that trip. When we got to North Texas, the first place we ended up was a place right outside of Dallas in Mesquite. It's right there, a little mall right off of 30. We got to that mall. And they gave us some more meals, more MREs, but a different kind of MRE. They gave us the civilian version of an MRE, as though we needed that. And then they said, okay, Dallas was full, Fort Worth was full, so therefore they were going to take us to a lot of the small towns were taking in evacuees. Well, actually, they started calling us refugees. I later found out why, because a lot of people were so stupid, they got mad because people were calling us refugees. But the reason why, one of the reporters had discovered something, and he figured that if the refugee title stuck, then the federal government would have given us money, would have given each family, each individual, and each family enough money to rebuild their lives under the Refugee Act. But we were so stupid and prideful, we decided, okay, well, we don't want to be called refugees. We're evacuees. We're American citizens. And look where that got us. So, I commend that reporter for trying, but, hey, it is what it is. Well, when we left Mesquite, they took us down I-20. I remember passing through small town after small town, and the sheriffs or deputies of those small towns kept waving us away. Basically, they were saying that they didn't want us in their town. When we got to our final destination, and that was on Labor Day weekend, September, we got to our final destination, which was in Ennis, Texas. They brought us to the high school. We stayed in the high school the whole weekend until school got ready to start. And then when school got ready to start, they basically, in a nutshell, took us from the school and put us into a church, like a little campsite. No running water, no TV, no telephones, nothing. It was just bareness, empty cabins with no air conditioning whatsoever, nothing. And so, of course, they started running, they ran TV and phone lines out there so that people could contact and everything. But, like I say, I found out that the town was getting paid roughly about $1,500 a day per person for every evacuee that stayed in the town. That was how much they were getting paid. And so, guess what? They basically, picked up donations and stuff like that, and donated clothes and food and stuff like that. Anything to keep us there. There were a lot of people whose families and stuff like that couldn't find them, and a lot of people wanted to leave, and they were told that they were not allowed to leave unless they had a destination to go to, and you had to have your destination verified in order for you to be allowed to leave Ennis. How you gonna tell grown folks that they can't come and go as they please when they trying to find their family? But that was the reality that a lot of us faced in there. I mean, when we got to Ennis, as a matter of fact, they didn't take us to, it was amazing, they didn't take us to the gym at first. They took us to a horse auction yard. And I remember one of the ladies on the bus, she screamed out, "Oh my God, they selling us back into slavery." I mean, everybody laughed because they needed a good laugh, but I mean, if you would have looked at that auction yard and you'd have looked at the people that got off the bus, it was nothing but a few men, women, and a gang of children whose parents were not even with them. But thank God that a lot of the parents were able to track down the kids and everything and find out where their kids were so they were reunited with their parents. So, I mean, even in the town, when they started trying to give us jobs to help us, cope while we were trying to get everything back on our feet, the town offered jobs such as ditch digging or grave digging. Now you tell me, would you go and dig a ditch or a grave in somebody's town? That was kind of creepy. And then the fact that you told us that we can't leave unless we have somebody verify that we are able to come to them. Like, I was going to Houston. To a friend of mine so that I could, get everything straight. I had to have my friend get on the phone and call and let them know that, yes, I was coming to Houston. Greyhound was giving free bus tickets to anybody with a Louisiana driver's license. Anywhere in the country you wanted to go, all you had to do was show up at a Greyhound bus station and you got a bus ticket. On the other hand, that's how things were. So, I mean, I haven't told y'all half of the stuff that really happened and everything. This was just a quick summary, but you get the idea. I mean, I've been through a lot in my life and everything. I've traveled a lot. I've had my share of ups and downs, lefts and rights, you name it. I've been there. So trust me, there's nothing that I can face. There's nothing that I will face that will ever make me throw my hands up and say that I give up. But best believe I am gonna fight and I am gonna win. But I will not ask anybody. I will not ask anybody for help. If you know me and you want to help me, then I shouldn't have to ask. If you really care. If you don't, then it doesn't matter. I'm not asking, I don't ask. That's, I'm a man. I do what I have to do, and to me, that's what a man does. A man does what he has to do in order to survive. So that's the gist of my day one. I know it ain't one of my usual videos and everything, but hey, more to come. Meanwhile, I am going to get me some sleep. I tried to go to Barksdale Air Force Base, but they had no rooms, they had no beds available, so I couldn't get a bed for the night, which is cool. Car is just as comfortable and as anything else. Most of the hotels up here are booked up, or I'm not about to pay almost $100 for a couple of hours. So, that's ridiculous. Especially on a Sunday night going into a Monday night. That's ridiculous. But, again, I digress. So, hopefully I will be in Dallas tomorrow. I'll be able to kind of regroup and get things together. I do hope that the people that sorry about that. I do hope the people that I do call on as friends remember our friendship and truly value our friendship. I mean, one good thing that comes when I take my trips and take my road trips and stuff like that is I truly find out who's a friend, who's an ally, and who I need to get rid of or who I need to cut loose. I mean, like they say, not everybody's your friend. Some people talk, I'm the type of friend that I'll give you my last. If it means I gotta sacrifice, if it means, because you wouldn't have come to me if you didn't need help. That's my belief. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people that feel like, anytime they sneeze wrong, they need to go ask for help. That's not me. I will exhaust every resource that I have within myself before I sit there and ask anybody, because, hey, a man is supposed to be able to stand on his own 2 feet. But sometimes, even the best of us, we stumble, we fall, and we make mistakes. So, but anyway, this is my day one chronicle. So, I know a few people came in and watched and stuff like that. Probably more people will watch in the morning when they wake up and stuff like that. Again, I'm not asking anybody for anything. I will do the best I can with what I have. I'm determined to make the best of a bad situation, but I just needed to know for myself whether or not, the path I'd been walking on was the right one. So, I've made a lot of personal progress. I've made a lot of personal sacrifices for the people that have been in my life and that have stood by me and always supported me. I really want to thank them for everything that they've done for me. You have truly been a blessing for me and to me. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'm going to do my best to come up and come back. And basically, in a nutshell, sorry about that, my allergies. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video here because I'm gonna sit here and call it a night. And hopefully in the morning I will have some good news. So you have a great rest of your nights and your mornings, and enjoy your upcoming week.